What's up everyone? So today we'll be talking about the list in Python, so let's get straight into it. So a list is a very powerful data type. They are used to store multiple items in a single variable. So our first example here, we're just creating a variable called fruits, and we're setting it equal to this stuff over here. So when creating a list, we put everything in brackets, and that tells Python that this is a list. So if we print out fruits, let's just see what that would look like. So you see we just get out the same list up here. And lists are sometimes called arrays. So if you hear the word array, just know that it's pretty much talking about a list. So if we use the type function on fruits, it's going to tell us what type of fruits is. And we can see it's a class of list, which just means that it's a list. And then the last thing I want to show is we can basically, if we use the length function or len function, we can get how many items are in the list. So if we do that, then you see we get 3, which means that there are 3 items in the list. One more thing to note is that a list can have duplicate items. So for example, you see list 1 has 2 ones, but that's perfectly legal. We can have as many items and as many duplicates as we want. So a list is indexed, which means that we can use the brackets to access any item at that index. This is similar to getting a specific character in a string. Remember, we used the bracket notation to specify like the item at a specific index. We can do that with lists as well, and that would look something like this. So if we print out fruits at index 0, that should print out just apple, because fruits at index 0 is apple. And remember, list indices always start at 0. So let's just see what we get. See, we get apple, because apple is the item at index 0. If you can remember from the string video, we talked about slicing in Python, and you can do slicing as well with lists. If you pass in a low and a high, then it'll basically give you a range of items. So if we print out fruits at index 0 through 2, this will give us all of the items 0 to 2, but it's not including 2. So it's gonna print out items 0 and 1. So this statement here should print out apple and banana. So we'll see if that works. And you see we get the list of apple and banana. So I just have 2 quick quiz questions. So what data type is fruits? So remember, fruits is this thing up here. So the answer is a list, because fruits is a list that contains these values. Question 2, what data type is fruits at index 0? So I'll give you a second to think about that. Okay, fruits at index 0 would be a string, because fruits at index 0 is apple, and apple is a string, because this is basically a list of strings. So fruits at index 0 is a string. A list is changeable, which means that we can add, change, or remove items. So in this first example, we're going to be changing the item at index 0 to something else. So line 32 is going to change fruits at index 0, which is apple, to be blueberry. So if we print out fruits, we can see what that looks like. So now you see our list is blueberry, banana, and orange. So a list is ordered, which means that items will be added to the end of the list. There are ways that we can add stuff not to the end, but by default, if we use the append method, then things will be added to the end of the list. So just to demonstrate, if we initialize fruits to be these 3 items and then we append pear, then we print the list. Then you see we get pear at the end of the list. So this is super helpful when you want to add anything to a list. You can use the append method. So if we want to remove a specific item, we can use the remove method, and this is how we do that. So we basically say fruits dot remove, and then inside the parentheses we pass in the item that we want to remove. So in this case, if we want to remove banana, then we'll pass in banana into the remove method, and then we'll print fruits after we do that. And now you see we just get apple and orange. So it removed banana. Sometimes instead of just removing an actual item, we want to remove something at a specific indice or index. So to do that, we can use the pop method. And pop is like remove, but it's going to take in an integer which represents the indice that we want to remove. So if we say fruits.pop at index 0, this will remove the item at index 0. And that the item at index 0 is apple. So line 51 will remove apple. And just to show you, if we print out the list after that, then you see we just get banana and orange, because the pop method removed apple. Okay, looping through a list. Don't worry too much about this as of now. We'll get more into this later when we talk about loops. But this is essentially creating a list of colors, and then we're going to iterate through that list. Iterating and looping can be are terms that are used interchangeably. It basically just means that we're going to do stuff for each item. So we use the for loop to do this. We say for item in colors, print the item. So this is going to loop through this list, going through it one by one, and it's going to print the item. So it's going to start at red, it'll print red, then it'll go to blue, then it'll print blue, then go to yellow, and so on and so forth. And just to show you, if we print that, then you see we get red, blue, yellow, green. And take note that this output is different than if we were just to print colors. So after the loop, I'm going to print colors. And as you can see, when we use the for loop, we basically got print statements for each item in the array. But when we just printed out the entire array, you see we got literally the entire array all in one print statement. We'll get into this more later, but you can use for loops to do something for each item in the array or in the list. The next thing I want to talk about is sorting a list. So sometimes you'll want to have a list that's sorted, and to do that, so first you create your list, and then you call the sort method on that list. And calling the sort method it'll actually change the array. So then when we print the array later on, then it'll actually be sorted. Just to show you, so take note that we start the list at just kind of random numbers, and they're not in order. But then when we call the sort method, then it'll put them in order. And you see we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, which is these items but in order. So sort method automatically does it in ascending order, but there are ways that we can have it kind of be in reverse, in like descending. So the first way is you can do reverse equals true. So this is basically an optional argument to the sort method. Well, don't worry about that too much. We'll talk about why this works later on, but just to show you that it does work, you see we get 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there's actually another way that we can reverse a list, and we can use slicing to do that. So I'm going to print nums : -1. So this is going to traverse through the list, starting from the end and going to the beginning. Don't worry about this notation too much. Like, if this doesn't make sense, don't worry. I'm just kind of familiarizing you all with some stuff. So this is another way. Instead of doing reverse equals true, you can use list slicing to reverse a list. So the last thing we're going to talk about is joining lists. So if you have two lists, then sometimes you want to make them into one list. And there are a couple ways you can do this. I'll just demonstrate two of the simplest ways. You can use the addition operator. As long as list 1 and list 2 are both of type list, then you can use the addition operator. And just to demonstrate, so we first create list 1, set it to 1, 2, 3, list 2 is 4, 5, 6, and list 3 is list 1 plus list 2, and then we'll print out list 3. As you can see, list 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically it just added list 2 to the end of list 1. So the second way is more memory efficient because we're not creating a third list. We can actually just add the items to the end of list 1. So, and we can use the extend method to do that. So first we start by creating list 1, we set it equal to 1, 2, 3, and list 2 is equal to 4, 5, 6. And then we say list 1 dot extend list 2. So this is going to do essentially the same thing as adding. It's just going to add all the items to, from list 2 to the end of list 1. And then just to show you this works, if we print, as you can see, we get the same output as we did when we use the addition operator. So that's about it for lists. In next video, we'll talk about some more interesting concepts, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see y'all next time. Thanks.